Okay, we're back here at the Humanist Lab, messing around with Microlift Oxy Pond Cleaner. We've been doing a lot of pond cleanings, and we mix the Microlift with the hydrogen peroxide, and it really cleans amazingly. Then we started finding out that hydrogen peroxide and baking soda together creates the same results as an Oxy pond cleaner. So what we did is we went and got a rock from the pond full of algae, and we sprinkled the hydrogen peroxide and the baking soda on it, and it sizzled, and it was crazy to see what happened. So right now, Angie, what do you have under there so far, Angie?
So this one's just a control, which means that we have a sample that doesn't have anything on it. So I'm looking at how much life is in there, what different types of microorganisms are living in it. And then from here, we can see how each of these three products affect those types of life. Yeah.
We had earlier sprinkled it on this rock right here. Boy, and the it's still bubbling, but we had all kinds of critters crawling off of that thing. It's loaded with all kinds of, and it actually is sizzling, popping and sizzling, and it's melting the algae off of that rock. When we do pond cleanings, we really want to get all the algae to come off the rocks. That's what our clients like, but you can actually see what's happening there. It just sizzled and melted the algae right off. Okay, let's see if we can get you to be able to look inside that. There it is there, let's see. That's the head of a bloodworm. Oh gosh, that thing is so ugly. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more. Let's see, where are you? Oh. Head of a bloodworm.
God, that's gross. Oh man, it's a big old worm.
This is from the pond, right?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me get to where the actual, not just the worm, the actual microorganisms are. Let's see, moving around.
What are we gonna do next?
So we have three tests. So we're gonna do just Oxypond for this one. Then we're gonna do Oxypond and hydrogen peroxide, and then we're gonna do a combination of hydrogen peroxide and baking soda and see how it reacts. Take a little bit.
We just did the Oxypond, and then set it on a droplet of algae water. If it was in that drop of yucco, it was ugly old worms and caterpillars and dragons and all kinds of stuff in that thing.
So
Now,
this is that same worm, and you can kind of see how the bubbles and the over-oxidation is kind of hurting it. But you can also see how the oxidation is breaking apart the algae, and it's separating it, which is why it makes it so much easier for us to clean it.
lifting it, all the algae and everything right off of there. You'll see it like pulsate and then lift it right out of there. It's lifting it from that wad of algae right there. Watch it just pull it right out and it'll kind of float away.
So all of the microorganisms that we saw in there are now dead. And you can also see how the oxygen or the over-oxidation is separating the algae, and it's kind of shredding it apart.
This is with the Octopod, and you can see that the bacteria, any of the wildlife that was in there is now dead, not moving. Zapped it. Now in the second example, we're using the microlift Octopod cleaner with hydrogen peroxide. This is usually how we do our pond cleaning application when we want to do the deep cleaning and kind of sterilize everything. We are definitely noticing that when we're using this combination, it really cleans really good, and it literally kills the algae and all the stuff off the rocks, but we're finding that it's actually killing not only the algae but the bacteria and everything, and it's the beneficial bacteria too as well. It's like a zapper. So what was the difference so far, Angie?
So this one has a lot more of a powerful oxidation, so it's bubbling a lot more, and you can actually see it ripping apart as opposed to just having the oxy. There's kind of like a slow bubble, but these ones, you can actually see it in there, how much activity is going on.
Little bubbles everywhere. Just pulled everything apart and zapped it. What we're going to do is we're going to do just the hydrogen peroxide and the baking soda. We're going to give it a little drop right there on the algae. You can already see it sizzling. Got a worm in there. What you seeing, Angie?
So since we didn't wait for the baking soda to dissolve, you see all of the like crystal, it kind of like looks like little ice crystals. It's really granular. It's still bubbling. It's not bubbling as much as the oxy and hydrogen peroxide, but it looks like the microorganisms are having a harder time with this one.
And the combination of the baking soda and the hydrogen peroxide, what is it called?
Sodium percarbonate is baking soda. Or the combination is sodium percarbonate. Yes, or they're having a hard time. It looks like they're having like a hard time just moving around and breathing.
Took a little bloodworm out, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the bloodworm is already starting to not move, which is a lot faster than the other ones.
Didn't take long to zap everything in there. Nothing's moving. Barely moving. Got a couple little things, but turn it. Move that. There you go. You can see the bubbles from those are the crystals from the from the baking soda, yeah. Still trying to break itself down. But the hydrogen peroxide, the baking soda is still trying to break itself down, but the hydrogen peroxide already zapped everything. It's still kind of gurgling. Go.
The baking soda and hydrogen peroxide pretty much destroyed everything. Like, everything's dead in here.
That was an atom bomb, huh?
Yeah, this destroyed the whole lot of them.
Killed everything.
You can actually see this worm. This bloodworm, when you're looking at it, you can see that it inhaled like big portions of oxygen because you can see through its body, and it's having a really hard time. It looks like it's having a hard time breathing or like functioning, having those big air bubbles in it.
Oh yeah, the bubbles. He sucked in the bubbles.
Mm-hmm. So those big bean-shaped things, he doesn't usually have those inside of him. So it looks like he's sucking up those bubbles, and it's messing him up.
He's suffering. He's trying to get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, fella. So our conclusion is you can use Oxypon for the deep cleaning, but it is the same thing as hydrogen peroxide and baking soda. Hope you enjoyed the video.
Absolutely.